to welcome everybody to this evening's Home Buyer's Choice information session. Glad to see everyone in the building, in the Zoom room, per se. It's look like probably a few people were here at our launch, and so now we're starting to get into the minutia of this potential of this great work. Before we get started, of course, we got to get some housekeeping stuff out the way. One, I want to first say, give a shout out to some people first. I'm going to try to make sure I always do this whenever we have a session because it's important to give people their flowers. And, you know, a lot of work on the background of this is taking place to get us to this point. So I just want to make sure I say thank you first to people. Get started first with the city of Indianapolis. Indianapolis African American Quality of Life Initiative, both were funders of this great work. The Indianapolis Neighborhood Housing Partnership, Homes for All Indy Coalition, the COT Advisory Board, Jeff Washburn, Jason Webb, the Notre Dame Community Development Law Clinic, Flavor, and that was be it. Dr. Ashley Allen, and with the Houston Community Land Trust. So thank you to everybody for your contributions to get us here. Most importantly, but I have to definitely give a thanks to the Kepler Institute for sponsoring this great work, this initiative, and all the people that have been a part of contributing to the development of the land trust. So give everybody a snap, a round of applause, whatever you want, however you want to do, to give you a shout out. Let's go to the agenda. You can turn the slide. Whoever's controlling the slide can get a click on the slide. Wonderful, thank you. So I'm going to introduce specifically the people who are part of this presentation. And then you will get into a little bit. I know some of you were here. You don't want to be beat down in the head again with, you know, information you've already heard, but it is important for those who weren't here, who don't know, to figure out what the land trust is. Then we'll get into the overview of the Home Buyer's Choice Program, talk about eligibility and process. How is buying? Talk about some of the differences with buying with the CLT and why it's different. And then the most important part, how you can begin preparing now. So that's the gist of the evening. We won't spend too much time in the show like last week because I just a lot of information here and a lot of stuff to go over. But I want to, before I give my spiel and get us started, I want to make sure everybody's okay in the room. So we always want to make space, one, for the people who are in the space. So we are going to do a check-in, and I'll share how the check-in will work. Before I get the check-in, please, I can't forget another very important part of this work, and that is, if you have the time, the resources, opportunity, please hit donate.kepler.org and donate to this work, and not just this organization, but any organization that you feel compelled to, that you consider doing great work to uplift the human spirit. The check-in works like this. We ask 3 questions. And the first question is your number. The second question is your color. And the third question I give to you in a minute. And you are to share what number resonates with you. It can either be how you're feeling or, your favorite number or whatever, a random arbitrary number. That's your choice. A color that does the same thing. Color that describes how you feel in your mood, your favorite color, or color just resonating with you. And the question of the day is this: give one word answer that shares how your day has gone so far. One word answer. And the way we're going to do that is please place your answers in the chat. When I get through talking, I'll count to 5. And once I count to 5, drop your answers in the chat and give everybody a chance to take a look at it. We'll do it this way to be expedient, give everybody a chance to see how everybody's doing. If you notice something in there that is a question to you, you want to check in with somebody, feel free to use the chat to get right at them. So as long as everybody's clear, are there any questions about the check-in process? Any questions about the check-in process? Let me check my view. Let's see here. Okay. Okay.
And Cheerio, delicious.
All right. Get started. We'll take about 60 seconds to everybody to check in. And if you don't mind, please mute your microphone until you're call out and speaking with us. number, color, and give a one-word answer. Describe how you feeling today. Oh, I see great words. Full, hopeful, motivated. Great words. Bright, vibrant. Blessed. Oh, I see blessed a few times. We all are blessed. Blessed to just get here today. Wonderful. Excellent. Okay, we take about 30 more seconds. Anybody else wants to check in, put your word, your number, color in the chat. Inspired. Yes. All right. Looks like everybody's checked in, doing okay. Excellent, excellent. Glad to see everybody. People still getting in here. Good feeling. All right. So let me just give a little context of what we're going to do, our plan for um, um, this evening. I'll give a little broader view about the land trust, and then I'll let the experts on here take it the rest of the way. Speaking of experts, I want to special shout out to the people you'll be listening to, answering your questions, your what I call your currently, at least for this time, the resources in this space. That's Alvin Sang Sawango. That's Stephanie Guillardo. Um, I think Tara's here. Is serving as one of our next generation leadership. Anytime you see the Kerper work, you're going to see a young person involved in the leadership, learning and building their skill. I think Nicholas is on here. Nicholas Johnson, our legal representation as well. Here is Deidre on here. Deidre coming here. Okay, and then I'll give a shout out to Deidre as well. She's also one of the architects of this work.
And Miss Fair.
Oh, and the venerable. How could we ever forget the venerable Mrs. Fair? The architect of everything, from the very beginning to the very end, and everything in the middle. um, so let me just share a little bit before I turn it over to who am I turning over to? Alvin and Tara.
Yeah.
So about 4 years ago, I think that's correct, Alvin. The Kepler Institute received dollars from the city of Indianapolis and from the Indianapolis African American Quality of Life Initiative to develop the indie version of a community land trust. And for the last I'm going on 5 years, that's what is taking place. The formulation of this land trust framework. Think of it, I was sharing today, I thought about it. Think of it as Kepler being the surrogate of a baby. And it's about time for that baby's been cultivated, had his diapers changed and fed and good and strong. And now we're getting ready to hand that baby over to not just one family, but to the community family. But before we do that, there are a few more things that we are obligated to do as the purveyors of the initial inception of this land trust. So with the formulation of this process and bringing together a whole slew of resources and experts and people from financial and legal to help come up with the structure, we were also tasked with forming putting together the iteration of this as a 501c3. By the way, that's been filed already. We're just looking for approval of that. Also to help support the development of a leadership team, inclusive of a board, and also executive director. And hopefully those people will emerge out of this group right here. And so that would be the goal. And for what you hear for this evening, two other, and I'll call the most tangible parts of the work are the Home Buyers Choice Program, and two, the Legacy Sellers Fund. And in very simple terms, that is the community, at least this version of the community land trust of purchasing and selling houses. The reason why I keep using the qualifier and trying to gingerly state about the this home buyer choice program, because what we all need to understand is that although we are, and everybody here is a member, if you joined in, you are a member of the community land trust, but in essence, this is much more of a prototype of how a land trust will act, at least around the home buyer piece. I'll explain in just a little more. What we have been a part of the dollars we receive from the city have been used, we've been able to allocate to support a few home buyers who happen to be members or potential home buyers in purchasing a house. We have an opportunity to support their journey with a subsidy. In some cases, up to $100,000, we'll be able to provide home ownership support. The difference with this and when the land trust is, in full fruition and formation is that those same dollars come from the dues that members pay and other methods within other levers and tools within the land trust, dollars from the house, from house sales and other things that generate revenue within the land trust. And so, though we are going to help a few people get into a house, and those houses will become properties within the land trust. It will be up to us as the community to carry this work forward. It'll be up to us to raise the funds. It'll be up to us to maintain the structure and the framework, and it'll be up to us, most importantly, to govern the trust and get along with each other and figure out how to do it within community. So this evening, you hear more information about the Home Buyers Choice Program. How many, there'll be some details about what that entails, what that is. We'll also share that the process in which people will be selected. You hear we will open up a lottery, which will allow people to enter in, and if they can complete the application and qualified, have a chance to be accepted as one of the home buyers in the pilot home buyer choice program. So with that being said, I think I captured all the high level points I wanted to make. I'm going to pass the ball as if we're in a basketball game to Alvin LeBron James for him to take over the presentation and give you some more insight into the land trust. I'll be around for a little bit. If you see me out in the neighborhood, the community, anywhere, please say hi, ask me a question anytime. Enjoy.
All right. Thanks, Khalil. Appreciate you. And I'm Alvin, been a part of Kepler Institute for about 13 years now, working on the CLT project about 4 years. And so what is a community land trust? I'm actually gonna, if there are any brave volunteers, maybe who attended the last session, want to just throw out there, what is a community land trust? Or you can put in the chat and I'll read it out. And there's no wrong answers. Just want to hear what y'all are thinking.
I know someone's burning to answer. I feel it bubbling.
Okay, we have Stephanie volunteering in the chat. We give someone else a chance first, then I'll read hers. Okay, Stephanie put a tool to keep homes permanently affordable. Anyone else want to add in? Okay, so I'll put a way to collectively share and manage land. Got some smart people on today. All right, you can go to the next slide. Appreciate y'all putting it in the chat. So that's almost exactly what I had in here. Community land trust is a tool. So again, it's a tool, not the solution to affordable housing. It's a tool that can do certain things. So what does this tool do? The tool really does two primary things. Okay, and we also have Ashley Hannah put land owned by a nonprofit organization and allows owners to buy at affordable prices. Yep, for sure. So the first thing the tool does, community control of land and housing through the membership and the board. And Tara's going to break these down for us in a minute. And then the second thing it does is permanently affordable housing, and that's through a ground lease and a resale formula. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Tara. Next slide.
Hey, y'all. My name is Tara. I've been with Kepler for about a year and a half, and I have been nicknamed the process queen because I like to create processes. So with that, let's move forward. So let's break down a little bit what the CLT membership and board looks like. So the classic community land trust is a independent nonprofit model that serves a defined geographic area, which in this case will be Indianapolis. So the membership is open to anyone within that defined area, Indianapolis in this case, which is one of the elements that makes the community land trust unique, is that the community members, including the community land trust residents, nominate themselves and vote to elect board members. The community land trust is accountable to our membership, residents, and community. So CLTs have a tripartite board, which is a fancy way of saying a board with 3 equal groups of representatives. So the first one being made up of CLT residents living on the CLT land. The second one is the made up of community members. And then the third one is made up of others, such as technical experts, funders, or other stakeholders in the organization. Because 2/3 of the board is made up of community members, they hold majority of the votes. And that is how community land trusts are community controlled organizations.
I think you have a question. Is the community land trust KEPRA?
Well, kind of, I feel like Khalil said it the best, where it's like we helped create it, but it is not KEPRA. I would say that it's open to anyone in the community. Cool.
Got it.
Awesome. Oh, and then Stephanie also added in, said, yes, KEPRA has been working to launch the NDCLT. Okay. Next slide, please. Cool. So CLTs use a dual ownership model in order to secure the property for the common good and to ensure its ongoing affordability. In this dual ownership structure, the CLT residents own the home, and then the community land trust owns the land underneath the home. Next slide, please. Cool. And how does the ground lease work? So there's a 99-year ground lease that ties the home and the land together. The ground lease does a few critical things. First, it outlines the rights and responsibilities of the homeowner and the rights of the responsibilities of the community land trust. Secondly, it establishes use restrictions, like, for example, requiring the homeowner to live in the property as their primary residency. And then third, it establishes affordability restrictions through a resale formula, which we'll get into in a moment. Next slide, please. That moment is right now. So how this resale formula works is that the community land trust is based on a specific formula. It's a 2% fixed appreciation each year. So for example, if you were to buy a CLT home for $100,000, that's the amount that you get the mortgage for, then each year you could sell it for $2,000 more, 2,000 being 2% of 100,000. So in year one, you could sell it for 102,000. In 2 years, 104,000, and so on. And the goal of this resale formula is balancing wealth creation for you, the homeowner, with affordable housing for future homeowners and the community as the whole. And a little bit more into like how this keeps it continually affordable is that this resale formula is what sets the community land trust apart from other forms of affordable housing development. CLTs ensure that the homes that they develop are affordable not only to the first occupant, but to others as well. And they do this by, one, removing the land and the home from the housing market. For two, reselling the same home over and over. And then for three, using resale restrictions. For example, the resale formula. When an eligible home buyer purchases a CLT home, they sign the ground lease that upfront outlines how the resale will work, including their maximum sale price, and the eligibility factors for the new buyers. So when a future buyer purchases the home, they sign a new 99-year ground lease and agree to sell it at that resale restricted price. And this cycle happens again and again. And that I will pass it to Alvin.
Okay, next slide. So what does the CLT do? Like, why do we even need an organization? So really what the CLT's main job is stewardship. And there's a couple categories of that. First is the structures of the homes. So ensuring that the homes are maintained. So again, supporting homeowners with resources to maintain the home. We're going to talk a little bit about a repair maintenance reserve. That's part of the structure of being part of the CLT, which we'll get into more detail later. And ensuring that those homes, in addition to serving the existing homeowners, serve the community as a whole and future homeowners. The second group that it stewards is the homeowners. So the idea, and again, the idea of supporting the members of the community land trust. And again, the CLT isn't the landlord, is really here to try and help support people. So again, if you end up being a CLT home owner and you're having trouble with your mortgage or you're getting behind or something, stuff happens in life, like we're here as the first group to reach out to and say, hey, I need some assistance, or this happened. What should we do? And to try and come to a solution together to figure it out. And then the third thing that the Community Land Trust stewards is subsidy. So every year there's millions of dollars that are invested in affordable housing that come down from the federal government to the city and then to organizations like the Community Land Trust that do affordable housing. What the Community Land Trust is able to do is to keep, again, those funds. Usually the way it works is you use it to develop an affordable house that then is sold to a family. But again, all that investment, it might be $100,000 to make an affordable home. It benefits that first household and the one household, but after that, the money's gone because they can sell it at market rate. Pretty much there's usually resale restrictions that are like 5 years, usually about 5 years, no more than 15 years. And then after that, that investment that comes every year kind of is gone. I mean, it really is gotten by the first homeowner. But again, when it comes to stewarding it for creating more affordable housing in our community, it doesn't build up. It's kind of like a leaky bucket. So that's kind of what a community land trust can do, is help to keep those affordable homes in our community. Okay, and I also see in the chat, this is from Anthony Outlaw. I might be getting ahead of myself, but I understand it helps with affordability, but is your equity capped at 2% per year? And would this affect getting, say, like an equity loan against the property to renovate like a bathroom or kitchen? Okay, this is a great question. So yeah, the maximum price is set at that 2% per year. So again, it's whatever you put in. Let's say it's 100,000, it's 2,000 every year. In terms of you can get an equity, like borrow against your equity, but it would not be it would be what you put in. So you could not borrow more than what the maximum price is. So 10 years down the line, you might have paid off that mortgage, like paid $30,000 off of that $100,000 mortgage. And then you could borrow that like 30,000 again against the price up to the maximum price. And again, it's kind of a balance of trying to figure out how to balance wealth creation for the one household and the benefit for the community and future households. Okay, next slide. And I will pass it over. Oh, actually, I'm going to talk a little about the home buyer choice pilot. So like Khalil said, we got resources, $400,000 from the Indianapolis African American Quality of Life Initiative to do a pilot program. And again, this really is a proof of concept, and would love, hopefully you all on the call will be some of those people who go through this process if you want to, if this fits your interests and your best interests. And again, we're not trying to sell this to you. We just think this could be a resource that might have some value. So we really base this pilot from lessons that we learned from 2 organizations. The first one was Houston Community Land Trust. Khalil mentioned Dr. Ashley Allen, who's been a great friend and mentor of ours. The way that they do it, so instead of building houses in Houston, they just provide cash or subsidy to reduce the cost of houses on the market. So it's called, you can buy a house that's just on the market, like any house you go on Zillow, you see like 1,000 houses in Indianapolis, you could pick one of those. And instead of building a house, the community land trust provides money to reduce what your mortgage would be. So we'll provide with this pilot up to $100,000 to CLT buyers. Again, that's up to, because depending on the house, you'll have a maximum of what you can purchase, but you might find a house that's a little lower than that. So we're going to retain some of the subsidy, but make it so it's affordable to you based on the mortgage you can get. The goal is the requirement is purchase a turnkey home, which means that a home that doesn't require a lot of maintenance, not a fixer-upper. There's no, it's got to have the walls in place, it's got to have a roof that works, it's got to have like HVAC and heating and cooling or whatever. And it's not that it has to be perfect or look beautiful like HGTV, but it just does have to have the basic systems so that it doesn't cost you an arm and a leg in the first 5 years. And then as just like an example, like if there's a home for sale for 180,000 that's across the street from you and you want to buy it, and you can only afford a mortgage of 80,000, the community land trust would bring that other 100,000. Again, it's not necessarily, it's not like down payment where you get it and it's yours, but it really stays in the home and is stewarded, but allows you to be able to purchase it, a house that otherwise you couldn't. And again, that would be the future sale price would be based off what you put in it and appreciate 2% every year, plus whatever. And you also, we'll get into more details when we do the ground lease orientation, which we'll mention later, which will go into details. You can also get credit for doing capital improvements, like you add a bedroom to the house or you renovate a kitchen. That adds value to the property, and we want to also incentivize people to do that for their investments. Next slide. And I'm going to pass it over to Stephanie to talk a little bit about eligibility and the process.
Hi, everyone. For those of you who haven't met, I'm Stephanie Gallardo. I can't believe I've been with Kepra for over a year and a half now, working specifically on this CLT project. And housing has been a big passion of mine throughout my life, as I've had different moves and things that have impacted me, and see it as so foundational for us to really have a healthy, stable, thriving life. So glad to be a part of this and be with you all today. I'm going to talk about the process of becoming a CLT homeowner. First of all, you've already done the first step. You're starting to understand the model and what it means to be part of the NDCLT. We reviewed some of the basic elements like the ground lease and the resale formula with you today. More details are available in our Home Buyer Choice Program buyer guidelines online. And if Alvin, if you can maybe put the link in the chat, that would be great. After reviewing this in our website, please feel free to reach out to our team if you have additional questions that we potentially don't answer today. Step 2 is to become a CLT member. So in order to qualify or be able to proceed in this process, you do need to be a member first. If you're not already a member, you can scan this QR code and fill out a membership form. It's quick and free. Be sure to check yes when asked if you are interested in obtaining affordable housing through the Indianapolis Community Land Trust. And I see a few questions here. Just a moment. Does it have to be, I lost it. Does it have to be a single family? Can I get a condo or duplex or trailer? It does need to be a single family home, though duplex, I'm not sure on. Do you remember that, Alvin?
Or a duplex, single family or duplex, just not a condo or townhome. And that's because they're like condo associations and it gets complicated legally on how it works.
Okay. So step 3 is upon signing up for membership and indicating that you're interested in obtaining affordable housing, our team will send you a screening form. If you've already signed up for membership, we'll send you the screening form in the next 24 hours. This screening form serves to determine pre-eligibility based on income level. It helps us to better understand how many people are interested in this program, along with participant circumstances. In order to be pre-eligible and continue in this process, you and everyone in your house collectively need to earn less than 60% of the area median income in Indianapolis, which is this graph or table that you see on the slide. And this is the maximum amount per household, up to 60%. So for example, for a 1-person household, you can earn a maximum of $43,260 for the year, which would mean that you could afford to pay a little over $1,000 a month for housing based on 30% of your income. We're focusing the CLT's resources for households under 60% area median income because those are the people who are paying the biggest percentage for their housing, but they're left out of the traditional market and most affordable homeownership opportunities. So we really want to serve those that probably couldn't get a house without it. Households identified as pre-eligible through the screening form will proceed to the next step. See, we have something else. Individuals who individuals who are not, we'll talk about this a little bit later. Your first part of the question, continued objective in maintaining success. We'll also talk about that. The monthly meetings will be open to members, but initially, like this first one is for members or those interested in membership. And target audience for encouraging more people to join, anyone passionate about housing justice. So, but we'll get to the first couple of questions a little later in your presentation. Okay, step 4. Hang on just a minute, just scroll down. A lot of things open here. I apologize. So we want to make sure that you understand how the Community Land Trust works and what makes it unique before you spend the time to complete an application. So in 2 weeks, so August 22nd, we'll review the ground lease with you and also talk about things like that capital improvement fund that Alvin mentioned and answer questions that you might have. If you can't join us live, you'll be able to watch the recording after. Okay, step 5. So this actually is kind of 3 things in one. And this is going to be the most time-consuming part. So I'm going to spend some time here. After attending the ground lease orientation in a couple weeks, and assuming you've completed the previous steps, we'll send you the application along with the list of lenders who have agreed to work with us and with you. You'll need to get a pre-approval letter from one of these lenders. I'd recommend starting with the mortgage pre-approval as that may take a little longer and require some back and forth with the lender. You will also need to attend a HUD certified first-time homebuyer education course. There is a free in-person option at INHP along with a $75 virtual option available through them. There's also a free online course called HomeView that is HUD certified. So all of those are options for you. Part of your application will be attaching your mortgage pre-approval letter and your certificate of completion for the homebuyer education course. This is very important. If you don't hear anything else, hear this. Everything must be completed and submitted by the end of the day, September 30th, for consideration in this round of funding. Because of limited funding at this time, 4 households will be invited to continue with the process based on completing the items in this step, a lottery drawing, which I'll talk about in a minute, and funding availability. We're optimistic that once the first homeowners have gone through the process, more funding will become available and we'll be able to help more people get into homes. With that said, does anything come to mind that you can start doing now? You can come off mute or type your answer in the chat. So what are some steps that you can take to begin getting yourself or those that you love who may be interested in this, ready for this process and these applications to open? And you can type in the chat or come off mute. Check your credit. Absolutely. And there are free resources to check that, and I'll lean on Alvin to throw that in. Something really important when checking your credit is making sure that everything's accurate so that you can dispute something that might be incorrect. Like if they say that there's a lien against you or that you owe something, but that's not accurate and you've paid it off. You would want to be really working hard to make sure that that's accurate before a bank is pulling that to see if you need to be pre-approved. Absolutely, start putting what you can in savings. Super important. Thanks for that link, Tara and Alvin. Ask a lender for a borrower checklist. That's a great idea. And there's probably some generic ones online to help get you started since we haven't posted our lenders yet, but that is a great idea.
And it'll be done.
Literacy.
I think it'll be done.
Hey, what they do to you?
Shut up.
Try to get your credit score above 620, which is about where the minimum is for most lenders. We'll talk about that a little more. We might even be able to get closer to 580, but anything that you can do to raise your credit score is going to help you in this process. And yeah, start researching housing in the areas where you want to live. Get a feel for what those houses cost, what type of shape that they're in. These are all great things. You guys have a lot already going for you. Other things that you can do, you could go ahead and knock out the HUD home buyer course. Now, you could begin doing this in the next couple weeks before you even attend our ground lease orientation. Check. Begin gathering documents. So kind of all the stuff you need for your taxes, but you're going to need multiple years worth of all that. All of your bank account statements. You're going to need all of your W-2s, all of your tax documents. If you don't have a valid ID, you're going to make sure you're going to need, a valid driver's license or state identification. You could visit a community center, and a lot of them have financial literacy classes or credit repair workshops. Really important. We're trying to also give you guys some time to knock some of these things out so that you're eligible and in a good shape to become one of our homeowners. We talked about pulling your credit report. I would encourage you not to make big purchases during this time or open credit cards, because when a lender looks at pre-approving you, they'll be looking at that, and that could be a red flag for them. So paying down credit, putting things in savings, but as much as you can, don't open a new credit card or make a big purchase right now. This is not a time to buy a car. If you can make yours work or get around in another way at the moment. Thank you, Nicholas. Yeah, requesting your tax transcripts, both personal and on the business side if you're an entrepreneur. Absolutely. So some situations. What happens if, and I think some of this kind of alludes to one of Tamara's questions, I believe. My credit is good, but I don't have any savings. So as a homeowner, it's going to be helpful to have some savings because things will come up. But that's part of why we are only having turnkey homes, is because we want to hopefully allow you to get stable and begin accruing savings. You don't necessarily have to have a large amount of savings. With a lot of the lenders that we're working with, they have some down payment assistance grants and potentially even other funds. So we'll be releasing those lenders and those opportunities soon so that you can further look at that. But that there is opportunity there. So I don't want you to be discouraged. There is possibility. I have savings, but my credit score is low. This one's a little bit harder, but one of our lenders in particular doesn't actually go based off of credit score. They actually look more at rental history. So let's say that you had a bankruptcy or something that happened in the past, but you've been working really hard, and your credit score still isn't great. It takes some time for those things to come off. With consistent rental history, they can potentially move past the credit score issue as long as current things are going well. If you don't have credit or savings, it really kind of is really pieces of both of these things. So it's going to be a little harder if you don't have either, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. We're just going to have to take a look at each individual situation and work with those mortgage lenders to see what might be possible for you. And I'm going to rely on Alvin to just let me know if there's something in the chat we need to discuss versus other helpful.
Gotcha.
Is there one bureau, but I did see this one. Is there one bureau that is looked at specifically? Are you referring to like the 3 credit bureaus, Ashley? Or I want to make sure I'm understanding your question.
Yeah, I think that's what she's asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think so. That's not my understanding. The banks will often pull all 3, and you're going to get a good idea from one. But it's helpful when you can pull the full credit report to see all 3, because it's possible that something shows up on one that doesn't show up on the other that you would have the opportunity to dispute.
And I think a lot of banks, they'll take the middle score. I think it's the general practice, or some might take the low score, but from my experience, they pull multiple and pick like the middle.
Thank you, Alvin. And I want your opinion on something, because we don't want to assume that we know everything. We want to see what's helpful for you. And if you can come off mute or type in the chat, would it be helpful for you to have a group virtual session, kind of like this, where each lender briefly talked about what type of mortgage they offered and the benefits of going with them, because they all have slightly different programs that have maybe a maybe this one has a higher interest rate, but you get more down payment assistance and some things like that. Before choosing the lender you would want to work with, this would be optional and available on demand, but would be the most helpful for you if you attended live so you could ask your questions. And let's see what's coming in. Absolutely, great idea. It looks like that might be helpful. Okay, well, we will work to get that together for you here in the next few weeks. Stay tuned. Thanks for your input there. Okay, so now continuing on in the process. This is where it gets exciting. Everyone who completes the first 5 steps will be entered into a lottery to receive program funds. The lottery for this round of funding will take place during the October CLT membership meeting on October 9th. Important, exciting date. Winners of the CLT lottery will be provided with a letter indicating the maximum amount of affordability assistance that we can provide and the amount of time that you'll have to make an offer on a home. So that's where it's also helpful, as someone mentioned, to begin kind of looking around to see what type of things are out there so you have a better feel of what's reasonable in your price range. As a reminder, because of limited funding at this time, 4 households will be accepted into the Homebuyer Choice Program. And what we plan to do is if there are more than 4 households that have been able to get out everything in and get mortgage pre-approved, we're going to go ahead and draw the remaining. And in that order, they'll be placed on a wait list for if more funding becomes available, then we would check with that next person on the wait list to see if they're ready and their credit is still good to try for that next slot. So, and we'll draw everybody who has all those ducks in a row and all that paperwork submitted. We'll draw everyone at that point so it's transparent and fair and everyone knows where they stand. Step 7. After getting the approval letter, now it's time to find a realtor to help you in this process. You can use whatever realtor you would like. After you choose your realtor, you'll meet with our staff to review all of our program parameters, especially that like turnkey piece, so that everyone's on the same page as to the quality of the home, any additional steps that might need to be taken for the program, and property eligibility. Step 8. You can work with the realtor of your choice to find and purchase an existing turnkey home anywhere in Indianapolis. Existing homes will only be accepted into our program if they do not require any deferred maintenance or rehab needs at the time of purchase. Anything I need in the chat?
Yeah, there's a question from LaShonda. How long would your paperwork be valid if you're not chosen for the lottery? And I'll just go ahead and answer. Specifically, mortgage pre-approvals are usually good for 60 to 90 days. So again, like the idea is if you can't get housing and find like a program that works for you, we don't want you to just like wait on us.
Yeah.
Unless that's like your best option too. So again, the idea is that the community land trust will continue to work with home buyers into next year when more funds are available. But if you can find opportunities and resources, and I'll mention a couple at the end that I know about that are coming up that again might be a good fit and might even be a better fit than the CLT for some people. So we'll come back to those at the end too.
Okay. Step 9. Before the NDCLT will sign off on the Homebuyer Choice Purchase Agreement Addendum, it's a lot of words, our staff will need to review and walk through the property to make sure it really is turnkey property that doesn't require any deferred maintenance or rehab in those first few years. We want to make sure that all of the homes that come into the CLT are in good shape and that you won't be forced to make any significant repairs soon after getting into the home. So you have a chance to stabilize, enjoy your home, and be settled into it before you have to put a lot of money into a home, because homes are expensive. The next step is meeting with an attorney. Despite our best efforts, there is a lot of paperwork involved in purchasing a CLT house. There's the ground lease, there are loan documents, and there are closing documents. Because of the volume and complexity of these documents, we require our homebuyers to meet with an attorney prior to closing to review these documents and answer any questions that you might have. Once we get to this point, we're happy to give you a recommendation on lawyers who are familiar with our paperwork and process, or you can find your own. It's completely up to you. The NDCLT will cover up to $300 for the cost of meeting with an attorney. And then it's really exciting time to celebrate. The closing is where you and the seller sign all the paperwork that ensure that you legally and officially own the house. A community land trust is really similar to any other closing. The main difference is that in addition to all the loan documents, a land trust closing involves signing the ground lease. And then after closing, important things to note. You'll have all the joys and the challenges that come with homeownership, including paying a monthly lease fee to the NDCLT throughout homeownership, even if you pay off the mortgage. As long as you're in that home, you're paying that ground lease fee. This monthly fee is the amount paid to grant exclusive ownership rights of the land underneath the home to the homeowner. In reality, this amount supports NDCLT to assist more households to achieve ownership in Indianapolis, and also for us to provide the stewardship function associated with NDCLT homeownership. The NDCLT also requires that you pay a $50 a month repair and replacement reserve fee, which we talked about a little bit. Your monthly contribution grows a fund that is exclusively yours to use to make future repairs to the exterior of your home. So like roof, siding, windows, exterior paint, exterior doors. We have to keep that exterior in good shape to protect the inside and protect that investment. The NDCLT will maintain this account in your name. Any funds that you don't utilize while owning your home will stay with the house and don't get returned to you, the homeowner, because it's intended to ensure that the home remains well maintained for future homeowners. Included in your mortgage will be homeowners insurance and taxes. It's important to understand that property taxes and insurance can increase over time, which may impact the amount that you're paying on your mortgage. If you were to pay off all of the principal, that initial loan that you took out of your mortgage, you would still need to pay property taxes and insurance for as long as you were in that home. While there are many benefits to owning your own home, one of them is not home maintenance. It really sucks. If things like shingles or walls need to be replaced because of a bad storm or just general wear and tear, it'll be up to you to take care of these things, and like mowing the yard, which is not super fun. Routine maintenance around the home and the property are also your responsibility, and like changing your lint trap and your furnace filter and all of those things are your responsibility and your cost. Having things like appliances or the heat or air conditioner routinely serviced are up to you. As we talked about, you will pay $50 a month into a repair and replacement fund, which you can withdraw funds with to help with the cost of exterior repairs. But on the good side, you have us for support. Once the papers are signed and the home is yours, we are here for you to help answer questions you have, whether it be about the resale formula or a repair you're wanting to do, but also like, I got this tax bill and this seems weird. We are there for you and with you through this process. Also, we will provide training. We'll look at, once we have people in homes, we're looking to do training about maintenance and things that will help you stay in the home, navigating taxes, those things, especially for those of us who haven't owned our own home, may be helpful, and make sure that you are set up for success and have the support that you need. Okay, any questions before we move on? Okay, doesn't look like it. Fantastic. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Alvin.
Okay, thanks, Stephanie. Okay, so just as a quick overview, the difference between, okay, if you just go buy a house in the market normally or conventional versus community land trust home ownership. So if you're buying a home on the market, you obtain a mortgage from a bank, you accumulate equity as you pay down that mortgage or the house appreciates, you pay your property taxes, you can do whatever you want to the house within the law, you maintain your own home, you can will your home to heirs, or you also can receive tax deductions on your mortgage interest and property taxes. And the difference with CLT homes, it's a lower purchase price because the community land trust provides that affordability investment. And in this case, up to $100,000, which again, the goal is to try and help folks who may not have the capital or the cash or the income to get out of renting and into home ownership, where you can start to have control and have equity, start to gain equity in your housing. The ground lease, you have a ground lease with a monthly lease fee. There's resale restrictions with a community land trust home, again, to balance your wealth creation with the future homeowners being able to afford it. Meeting with an attorney prior to closing to make sure you're on the same page. You understand all the rights and responsibilities that you have. And another difference, which is actually positive for the CLT, is private mortgage insurance, which is like, I don't know, $50 to $100 fee every month that usually you pay if you don't do a 20% down payment. You don't have to do that with a CLT mortgage because the community land trust brings so much cash, basically equity to the table, that the bank doesn't require you have that insurance on it. So that's one added benefit. But again, we do want to encourage if you can buy a house on the market and there's a house that works for you, please go for it. Unless this is really like something that you're passionate about and you want to be a part of too. I do want to mention that there is a program that is starting coming up called Home Boost, which is specifically down up to $25,000 in down payment assistance for folks who have a household, anyone in the household identifies as a minority. And there are various participating banks around Indianapolis. So that is really starting August 14th. So that may be an opportunity that you all also might want to consider pursuing, in addition to the Community Land Trust too. So I'll put a link in the chat for the different member banks that are part of that, and you can contact them if you want to learn more about it. And
we are
again, that
working
money's not
with
going to last very long.
Yeah, that's true. The timing for us may not work out for you guys being able to utilize those funds and ours. We just don't know how all that will work because those will go quickly. But we are partnering with banks to learn about those different opportunities and try to make them available to our homeowners as possible. See a chat. Yes. Awesome.
Thanks,
Just
Lisa.
talking a little bit more about the Home Boost program. And I am one that likes to know what next steps I can take. What are some concrete takeaways? So some of this we talked about, but I just want to give you guys some ideas. Not that you have to do any or all of this, but these could be things that are helpful for you to really begin to get your ducks in a row and make this a possibility. If you choose to proceed with us, you're going to have to do that screening form first. We'll send out that link in the next 24 hours. Before applications open, you could go ahead and do your HUD homebuyer education course with an in-person option through INHP or a virtual option through HomeView that's free. You could pull your credit report and see if there's anything that's inaccurate. Don't make big purchases or open credit cards during this time if you're really considering wanting to be one of these first 4 CLT homebuyers, because that will impact your credit. Begin gathering documents. You're going to need your 8 most recent paycheck stubs for every person in your house who's 18 and older. So not just you. If you have kids that are living with you that are teenagers or 20 years old, their income is going to count toward that 60% AMI. We're going to need that information. You're going to need your last 2 years of your federal tax return for everyone in your house who's 18 and older. And if you are self-employed, you're going to need your Schedule C for the last 3 years, which those of you that are self-employed, I'm sure you know what that is. And everyone else, you would also need your last couple months of bank statements. So just want to give you some helpful tips there of things that you can start doing now that you can begin gathering. And I'm happy to share a PDF of this presentation to those of you that attended this call, but a lot of these details are on that link that Alvin already provided with the full Homebuyer Choice Program. Really, there's even more details on that than we shared today that you are welcome to dig into and ask questions about. So with that, what questions do you have? And feel free to come off mute, or you can type it into the chat. We are also fortunate to have legal expertise with us today, Nicholas Johnson, for those really in-depth questions. We are so grateful for his knowledge and time tonight as well to share with you all.
So I do want to revisit some of Tamara's questions just to make sure we answered them.
Yes, thank you.
So the first one was, one, individuals who are not financially prepared for home buying, is there a partnering financial advisor to assist with educating individuals on preparation and sustainability? And I'll also open, if folks on this call also know resources, please shout them out. I would say those, like, definitely taking those home buyer education courses, in particular, like also INHP has other courses that are about like getting your credit right and like just different, like more not just specific to home ownership. That might be a good option for some people, as well as like people mentioned, oh, Another thing I want to mention is individual development accounts, and I'll drop some links in the chat. There are organizations like Community Action of Greater Indianapolis, as well as the Bonner Center that help people. It's basically a match savings account where you put in $1 and then the government matches it for $3 as long as you spend that money on certain things to develop assets. So it could be buying a home is one of those, repairing a home is one of those. So anyone, even if you do the CLT, it might be a great option to also do that. Also like purchasing a car to get to a job or a job training. So, and again, I'll put links and resources to that in the chat. Does anyone else want to shout out other resources for people?
Community centers are a great place to start as well around town. They would have some good resources. The
And
Bonner
Lisa
Center,
shouted out Bonner
financial
Center.
counseling. Yep.
Yeah.
I know Martin has some things going on, and 10 Indiana has some homeownership workshops that just started actually this week that you might still be able to get in on.
Yeah. And they are building houses in Riverside that might also be a good fit for folks that may still be available on the Far East Side and Maple and Martindale Brightwood too. And there's another question.
Are these homes able to be passed down like traditional homes? Yes, so if you have a spouse or you have children, you can leave the house to them in their will. You can add people to the lease. So let's say it's not, you're not going to like leave them your assets, but maybe you want like your niece that's been living there with you to be able to stay in the house. If you add that person to the ground lease, then they'd be able to stay in the home in the same terms that you do. And then if you don't have things spelled out, which is one of the things we'll be working with homeowners on, is getting clear documentation as to what you would want to have happen to the house if you were no longer able to be living there or living at all. Then we would, work with you to get clear documentation as to what you would want to have happen to the house. And are you able to live in and run a business, a group home? I guess I'm wanting clarification. I mean, I think it's one thing to have a house and then like maybe you work from home or something like that. I just want to make sure I fully understand like what you're referring to, Victoria. If you wouldn't mind typing in more or coming off mute. Or maybe Alvin, you have some speculation. And
Yeah, I'll just say, yeah, Victoria, let's talk about that one offline too. We can talk about that more one-on-one. We might need to look a little closer, but again, definitely encourage. And this is a next step really for everybody, if you want to continue in this process, is the ground lease orientation session. And we're just going to, again, the ground lease is a really long document, and we're going to go through it article by article and just break it out. Here's what each of the articles says and what it means, so we can answer your questions. And that is covered, acceptable uses. And again, we'll dig in deeper into it, but definitely register for that. There's also a link to the ground lease in there too. Okay, and also ask for the link before KG. Okay, I put the individual development account links into the chat. There's the Bonner Center one, and then the one that's offered by Community Action of Greater Indianapolis.
And Aprilia, I saw that you got kicked off. I'm sorry to hear that, but don't worry. We are going to put this recording online on our indclt.org website, correct, Alvin?
Yeah, and we'll make sure to send y'all a link to the recording after the session's over. You just give us a couple days. Okay, and I want to go back to Tamara's questions to make sure we answered all of them. So her second question was, what is the continued objective in maintaining success in the continued growth of the land trust mission? And again, the land trust is going to succeed if people decide to support it. And that's both community members who demonstrate there is a need for it, but also funders, institutions, philanthropy, the city itself. I mean, we're talking to them about, how could they, like, how does this fit with where funds come from, and also philanthropy. So again, and the goal is to try and grow this through showing that there is a need and an interest in it, as well as individual people donating property through their estates or selling at a discounted price is some of the strategies that we're thinking about. And I did put, will there be monthly meetings to open up the mission to the public? Yes, there's a monthly membership meeting. And again, on the homepage, ndclt.org, all the events are listed at the bottom of the page that are coming up. So there's going to be a membership meeting on September 11th, where we're going to talk a lot more about the board. And again, if people are interested in running for the board and how that's going to work, we're going to talk more about that there, as well as build a relationship with each other. We're going to have food and kind of hang out, get to know each other, whoever comes. And then the last one, what is the target audience for encouraging more people to join? What Stephanie said earlier, anyone who's interested in this.
And I'd also be curious, we've got a little bit more time. If you generally have feedback, how did this feel to you? Was this clear? You know, we want to make sure we'll continue to refine over time, but any feedback that you have about this presentation or the program, we'd really appreciate. Absolutely. Questions are so important. And I'm grateful that Alvin went back to make sure we thoroughly answered all of yours, Tamara, because those are some good questions. Okay. Well, oh, we got a couple of things in the chat. Great. Oh, good. I'm glad you found the link you were looking for, Prilly. Fantastic. So we will follow up with you in the next 24 hours with a link to the screening form. We will be sending out a link to the recording, maybe even with the screening form, if we're really lucky. We'll see if we can get our act together quick enough. But we will definitely target that along with the list of all of these links. You have our email address, info@ndclt.org. If you think of other questions or things that you maybe didn't want to share in this setting, we certainly understand and are happy to talk with you about individual concerns or needs that you might have. And hope that some of the people on this call tonight might be some of those who are chosen for the lottery. And really, it's, oh my gosh, it's like 2 months from yesterday, I think, something like that, really close. So a lot of work to do, but really exciting opportunity. Thank you all for taking time tonight.
Thanks all.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your night.
Great job, y'all.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Alvin,
Yeah.
I am probably going to give you a call next week.